Now to Ukraine, where the southern city of Kherson is once again facing a barrage of Russian artillery. Military officials now reporting 33 Russian missiles were fired at civilian targets in Kherson just in the last 24 hours. This as the eastern town of Bakhmut remains battered with intense fighting. President Zelensky saying today, quote, "There is no place that is not covered with blood, but still Bakhmut stands." To talk about these developments and more, NBC's Matt Bradley joins us now from Kyiv. Matt, the onslaught of attacks on civilians this week has just been brutal. The UN now estimates 40% of Ukrainians needing humanitarian assistance. What more do we know about the impact on the civilian population now, 10 months into this war?
Yeah, I mean, now that we're in the 11th month of this war, Jake, I mean, the fact of the matter is that the civilian bombardments have been going on since the beginning. And, you know, we keep talking about how the civilians are bearing the brunt of this, and I've been watching it firsthand. Just people who are leaving, people who are returning from the front lines, people who are leaving from Mariupol back months ago. Remember that story? It was a tragic case, and now we're seeing it in Bakhmut and all throughout the eastern and southern fronts. But, you know, you mentioned those UN figures. 40% of this population is in need of assistance. That's about 18 million people. But, you know, the UN also mentioned something that was interesting. 7% of this country, when asked, said that they wouldn't leave. Jake?
Wow, 18 million people affected. Now, of course, Matt, we know Ukrainian forces are focusing in on the Russian-occupied city of Kreminna. Walk us through the strategy here. Why is retaking that eastern city so crucial?
Yeah, I mean, that is a city that's very near Bakhmut, which is, we've heard so much about that city over the past 5 months. It's one of the longest lasting battles in this whole war. But just north of it is Kreminna. And, you know, we heard from the governor of Luhansk region just today saying that the Russians know that if Kreminna falls to the Ukrainians, then the whole line will fall. That is probably a bit hyperbolic. But the fact is that once the Ukrainians take Kreminna, they're going to be within striking distance of 2 other major cities, Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. And once they're able to do that, then they'll be in a good position to move well into the Donbass region. But the idea that the whole line could fall just from taking Kreminna, well, the Russians have a lot of assets in that region. And also, remember, Vladimir Putin believes, rightly or wrongly, that he has a new group of enlisted soldiers who are headed to the front line right now. And we're talking about numbers in the hundreds of thousands. And they are already there, some of them, and they're already on their way. That could potentially tip the balance of the conflict, but it's unclear what that will do.
Right. Obviously, a key strategic point there. So President Putin just announced a ban on oil sales to any nations that agreed to a Western price cap, and that includes the U.S., the European Union. But most of these countries already have a ban in place on Russian oil. In the few moments we have left here, Matt, what effect is this decision expected to have?
Yeah, I mean, most of that is going to be symbolic. Just like you said, most of the countries that are buying oil from Russia are not party to this treaty. And actually, they're already buying that oil at less than $60 a barrel, which is the price cap that was set by the G7 and by the European Union. By the way, the European Union has already basically said that they have a full embargo on almost all exports from Russia. So this isn't necessarily going to affect anything. But the fact of the matter is that this is a symbolic move, and one that comes as Russia is warning that, you know, Europe is going to be facing a cold winter without electricity, without gas. Well, they aren't. The weather has been good. Those stocks are high. Things are looking okay for Western Europe. So it looks like that, you know, second weapon that Vladimir Putin thought he had isn't arriving.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.